You know you can buy just about anything at Costco. That now includes gold. Costco is now selling 1-ounce gold bars. They're already selling out fast across the country.
Why, hello, gold member. This is kind of crazy. Apparently people are buying and investing their money into gold.
Think you could guess the value of this?
3,500.
Jeweler said max too small.
85.
Too small.
This is the serious behind-the-scenes look on what's actually gonna happen.
1,000 because it's probably not pure.
100,000.
300. Like 400. 250,000. It's a heavy-ass bar, man.
350.
We walked in with a bunch of dust.
Put that around your neck in a pendant like this big, right?
So gold has become the status symbol for ballers everywhere, but mostly Miami and New York. Now personally, I don't own any gold myself, but I have been practicing some alchemy, so watch my ring because this is gonna happen really fast as I turn my black ring into 24 karat gold. Why hello, Mr. Powers.
I love gold.
Sorry for that weird intro, but I hope that got your attention because gold is making a huge comeback everywhere, but especially at Costco, which is a marketing genius. Now I'm sure you know by now that Costco sells virtually everything, especially in bulk. Things like 7-pound tubs of Nutella, which is how we have a population of
Type 2 adult onset diabetes.
wedding cakes made entirely of cheese, so now you can go to the bathroom on your lunch break while you work and get paid even longer. And of course the famous $1.50 hot dogs, which make me
burp them for like a week.
But now they started selling gold and people are obsessed.
Speaking of money, listen to this. Costco says it can't keep one item in stock. Big box retailers selling 1-ounce gold bars online for more than $1,900.
Now you can only get these bars online, but just a few hours after listing them, Costco just sells out, which is why they've limited them to 2 per person. They're pricing them at exactly $2,000 an ounce, and people in the comment section are saying that if they could, they'd buy even more of them. Now I've never seen this kind of an obsession with gold before, and I've made like one video on my YouTube channel about gold, and it got no views, so I expect this video to do the exact same thing. But gold is making a huge comeback, and Costco is taking advantage of it with extremely clever timing and marketing. So in today's video, I want to get to the bottom of this mystery of why everyone is buying gold, especially at Costco, and if it's worth investing your hard-earned money into it. I think you're going to learn a lot, so let's get into it. Hi, my name is Andrei Jikh. Hope you're doing well. Come for the finance and stay for the 24 karat gold magic. Please smash the like button for that because learning alchemy is so hard to do. Before we go on, I just want to give a full disclosure and tell you that this video is not sponsored. I repeat, not sponsored. Now personally, I've never really cared for gold that much, and I think most people from my generation don't care for it. If anything, I think Bitcoin is my generation's gold, so I've never really owned it, but I'm still obsessed over people's obsession for it. So I want to run the numbers to see if it's any good. And before you say to yourself, gold is just a bad investment, which is what I thought before making this video, the more research I did, the more the data actually surprised me. For example, over the last rolling 1-year period, I found that gold was up 15%. And I thought, for sure, there is no way that the stock market didn't at least do as good, if not way better. But it didn't. The stock market's S&P 500, as measured by an ETF called VOO, was up only 12% by comparison. So that's interesting. Over the last year, gold did better than the stock market, and this can partially be explained because of inflation. People were worried that once the Federal Reserve started to add to their balance sheet, that it would make inflation go up, which is exactly what happened. So people wanted to preserve their purchasing power, and they put some of their money into gold. That makes sense. But inflation can't explain everything because it's relatively a new story. So I wanted to check the price of gold before the Federal Reserve injected us with $4 trillion. And when I zoomed out, things got even more interesting. When I looked at the longer 5-year time frame, gold's spot price was $1,200 per ounce this same time in 2018. But over the next 5 years, it went on to go up to $1,820 per ounce. That's a price growth of 51.5%. Now that's kind of an insanely good return. So I compared that to the stock market's 5-year growth. And the S&P 500 in that same time frame went up from 2920 to 4258. And that's a growth of almost 46%, which is also good, but not as good as gold's 51.5%. And as someone who mostly invests into the stock market, this kind of shocked me. How did gold do better than stocks? Is gold a better investment than the stock market now? What world are we living in, right? If I had some gold to sell you, I would tell you yes. buy my gold, Smeagol, and then I'd become invisible and run away. But the truth is, no, gold was not a better investment than stocks over these last 5 years, and here's exactly why. This will blow your mind. When you look at charts of the S&P 500, they leave out my favorite thing about the stock market, which I like to affectionately refer to as BDEs, Big Dividend Energy. So let me show you. This is VOO, the ETF that represents the S&P 500. Now this is the dividend yield, which shows us the percentage of how much this ETF pays us on a yearly time frame. Now, not every stock obviously pays dividends, and if a stock does not, this dividend yield won't show up. But since some of the companies inside of the 500 do, we see a yield. Now, it's not a big one, it's only 1.56%, but it makes a huge difference in the long term. Now, the charts of the S&P 500 that you're gonna find on Google or through your favorite investment app or broker do not factor in the dividends that we've collected, so it doesn't show it as part of that return. But because the dividends that are paid to us is something we can choose to reinvest back into our portfolios, back into that ETF, that would make that number higher than what it appears to be on the surface. But instead, what we're shown is the price growth averaged out across all the companies without the dividends we've collected along the way. Now maybe that seems a little sneaky or weird why they'd omit this data, but I guess the reason why they don't include it is because not everyone chooses to reinvest their dividends, and some people choose to use their dividends to pay their bills and retire with, so it wouldn't always be an accurate assumption. Now, if you want to find out the total overall return including dividends, you actually have to look at another ETF that's completely separate, which is the S&P Total Return, ticker symbol SPTR, which is pronounced SPTR. No, I actually have no idea how that's pronounced, but let's take a look at that same time frame with the total overall return, but now we're gonna factor in those reinvested dividends to see how much of a difference they would have made. And here it is. At the beginning of October 2018, the index was at 5708, and today, 5 years later, it's roughly 9184. That's a growth of almost 61%, which is in fact better than gold's return of 51.5%. And it's better not only because the return is obviously better, but also because you would have increased the share count by reinvesting the dividends. Because whenever we get paid and we reinvest, our share count goes up. It's like we make $1 and that dollar makes another $1. Now we have $2 making more dollars, so on and so forth. That's compound interest in effect. Whereas the amount of gold that you held throughout the years would have stayed the exact same amount because gold does not pay dividends. So the question is, why are people buying gold, especially at Costco? And the answer is because of the people who shop at Costco and the marketing that targets their fears that they see in the news. You see, people trust Costco. If there was an apocalypse tomorrow, people would definitely run to get their guns and ammo, and then they'd go to Costco, but that's because their customers are people that remember what the 70s and 80s were really like. Back when interest rates were close to 20% and they were very fearful. And now they're comparing what life was like back then to now, which makes them the perfect examples and the prime targets of the kind of advertising that would be susceptible to people that would want to buy some gold. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it's a good idea. Here's just some numbers to consider. Costco charges $2,000 for 1 ounce of gold, which is a premium over gold's price of $1,830. That's a 9% profit margin on the price difference. That's not even taking into account the price of a Costco membership, which ranges between $60 to $120 a year. There's also no refunds once you buy it, but people will still buy it, and that's because of reason number 2, fear. We're told that when there's high inflation, we should buy some gold because it preserves our purchasing power. It protects our money. And that is true to some degree. Gold does tend to do better, especially when there's mistrust in the government's ability to govern, like during fear of a shutdown, worries of higher interest rates, and in times of high inflation, which we could see again thanks to higher gas prices. But gold doesn't always hold its value. Sometimes it goes down just like anything else, and there are some downsides to consider. For example, if you want to hold physical gold by buying it from Costco, if you really want to do it right, you have to protect yourself against theft, which means you have to insure it and pay some amount of money every single month. And usually assets are supposed to pay us, not the other way around. Also, you can be subject to exchange rates and fees when you go to sell. For example, if you go through a broker, you might have to pay them 1% just to sell your gold. And while it's true that over the long term, gold tends to hold its purchasing power, personally, I see more reason to hold cash and get paid for it because interest rates are really high, and banks are offering competitive rates on high-yield savings accounts and short-term bonds. And there's virtually no risk of losing money if you hold your bonds until maturity, and if your bank's insured, and there's no premium on spreads. So those are some potentially better alternatives to consider. They're just a lot less shiny, Mr. Powers. Now, I just want to say, I'm not trying to convince anyone not to buy gold or not to buy it from Costco. I love Costco, I think they're doing great. But I think sometimes we make investing decisions based on our fears and worries about the future. That's, for example, why I buy Bitcoin, because I'm worried about the future of our currency's valuation. I don't want the government to devalue my money, and my tool to do that with is Bitcoin. But is it the best investment someone can make right now? Probably not, but that's why we diversify. So if you feel safe buying gold, that's fine as long as you know exactly why you're doing it, the premium, the price that you're actually paying for it, the downsides of physically storing it and insuring it, and the costs involved in selling it, and of course, the opportunity cost of investing your money into something else like stocks and bonds over time, then I think it's perfectly fine. But overall, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Am I wrong? Am I missing something? Do you own gold? Tell me all about it. In the meantime, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Smash the like button, subscribe if you haven't already. Don't forget to grab your free stocks. Links are down below, and then go track them automatically with a spreadsheet link down below in my Patreon. Love you. Thank you so much for watching this video. Would love to see you back here on Monday, Friday, sometimes a Wednesday. See you soon. Bye-bye.